Hey everybody, welcome back to the latest installment of the Coffee Break. I am your host, Eric Jennings. It has been a minute since I've done this. Obviously, coronavirus has impacted my ability to do face-to-face meetings, but we're sitting down with Marc LeDuc from SAE International today to understand the impact coronavirus has had on SAE, specifically the Brake Colloquium, and understand what else is going on and what's new at SAE for 2020 and 2021. I've got my tape measure, make sure I socially distance, got my mask, and we're going up to the 16th floor of their office here in Troy, Michigan, to sit down and talk. Let's go.
Hey, come on in.
Hey, Marc.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
How you doing?
Good.
Nice to see you. Oh. 5 feet, 6 feet. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having us down, Marc. I appreciate it. Really cool to see your building. I've never been here before. Even all my years of automotive experience, I've never come up to the SAE facility. How long have you guys been in this facility for?
We've been here about 14, 15 years now. Hope the construction wasn't too bad with
Okay.
75.
So I just totally missed it then in my 12 years of automotive experience, which is
Yeah, you wouldn't be the first.
a bit of a bummer. Well, before we get into some questions and talk about the topics that we kind of introed in the parking lot to the folks watching this, I always ask everybody that I do interviews with, what kind of coffee do you like and how do you take it?
I gotta tell you, I'm a pretty simple guy. I like to go with black and a little sweetener on it.
Yep.
And I'll say before I had children, I was a French press kind of guy, and
Yeah.
now I'm out the door with Keurig from a Dunkin' Donuts, whatever works.
Now I understand that. I mean, I have kids myself, so I'm still fighting to grind my own beans, but there's some mornings I just don't. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
So-
well, I understand that completely.
All right. Anyways, I appreciate having us here. Cheers.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. So before we hop into the specifics around the Brake Colloquium and what impact that has had, I want to ask you, what impact has COVID had on SAE overall, just from a holistic business standpoint, and how has that impacted your day in, day out stuff from SAE perspective?
Well, clearly with COVID and the governor and the 10-person individual rule, we've really had quite a transformation in what we do here. Our office normally has 3,000 to 4,000 people that come through it annually for professional development or the development of the standards groups getting here today. And that isn't happening. That's all gone virtual. And so we're looking at brand new platforms, whether they be by Zoom or something along that nature. So we've had to change our entire system of that face-to-face and moving that onto a virtual platform.
Have you noticed a big slowdown in the standards portion of things, trying to do it virtual, or are you guys still staying somewhat efficient on that aspect?
I think just like the regular mobility industry, they pivoted. It's a cliched word, but they actually have pivoted, and they're doing great work. So it really hasn't slowed down. I would say probably the first couple of weeks, things were a little bit dicey trying to figure out a person's face and all of that but going on now, problems aren't stopping. That's the thing I like to say. Engineers are still problem solving, and they're still in need of information and try to figure out how to solve these problems. So they haven't stopped. They're just working from their homes, and just like us, right? I'm working from home. This is a rare treat to actually be in the office in a couple of months. So welcome again. I really appreciate you coming.
I appreciate that. And I was just talking to my cameraman there before we walked in, and we were talking about how it's so weird to be doing all this business and not have that face-to-face interaction. So certainly understand what you're talking about with having the ability to sit down with somebody, which is great. But you guys obviously do a lot with standards. You guys also do a lot of the conferences, kind of leads into the Brake Colloquium conversation. How has the conference industry changed due to COVID-19?
If I could say in a single word, it'd be decimated, honestly. It has gotten to the point, if you look at IMTS, which was the entire Chicago Convention Center, that was postponed and canceled. And then you look at what CTA and CES is doing, that entire event has now gone virtual. So we've had for the entire fall to cancel all of our face-to-face events, and we are transitioning the large majority of those to virtual, like the Brake Colloquium.
Yeah, so speaking of the Brake Colloquium, you guys I think you're calling it a digital colloquium, is that correct?
Digital Summit, Digital Colloquium. We love, Colloquium's been around, it's been its unique moniker, if I can say that, for now it's going on 38 years.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the digital colloquium, I guess, and to the people watching this, what are some of the key components of that colloquium?
Well, we're trying to create as much similarity to a face-to-face event. So we have 50 pre-recorded presentations. So all of the speakers that have done manuscripts that were approved, we've gotten to them to pre-record. We are actually creating, taking all of the face-to-face panel discussions, and we're going to put those in a virtual environment. So we will bring people from around the country virtually together, and we'll have a panel discussion. Additionally, we have continued on and done the entire process of doing paper review, manuscript reviews, that is.
Yeah.
And those approved, and so we'll be publishing those at the same time. We're still doing sponsorship and some networking opportunities as best we can. So,
yeah.
You know,
that's got to be difficult.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's nothing that's going to replace the coffee conversation, that conversation that happens over in the corner. But we are looking to do some things around that where we have the platform will allow us the opportunity for individuals to engage with each other, and they will also publicly, I should say, and then privately they have an opportunity to call out specific people. And then the nice thing is with the sponsorship model that we have on the platform, we're able to take the sponsors can actually reach out independently to folks who are in groups, and they can provide some information. So we're doing the best we can. Again, there's no substitute for live, but we are certainly making sure that those critical conversations between engineers and industry are still happening.
Yeah. You mentioned just a couple comments ago about technical papers.
Yes.
For the digital colloquium. Talk to me more about the technical papers this year.
Well, as we do traditionally, we go out and look at everything that you can think of in the braking industry. You look at friction, you look at emissions, you look at the pads, you look at rotor design, and then I think it's really important is from a systems engineering perspective, you look at it and say, how is the vehicle today with automated technologies integrating into the brake system? Because honestly, the consumer takes braking for granted, and they just have no idea the complexity that goes in from an automated vehicle standpoint, or ADAS specifically, automatic emergency braking. So the papers that we're doing this year features all of this really great work that people started and in some cases had to stop and then restart. Yeah. So we're really pleased. India, the Asia region, Europe, the United States, we have our traditional authors from all of those places providing the manuscripts to do the work.
Excellent. Now, I do want to go back to networking for a second.
Sure.
You gave a little brief glimpse there of kind of what it looks like, but you can go more detail about how networking is going to take place at the Digital Colloquium in more detail.
Sure. I'll try to create a visual for you because, again,
paint the picture.
I'll do my best. So you're here on whatever it is, your laptop, your tablet, whatever it is that you're going to see on the screen, an opportunity to where you're going to actually see visually everybody that is registered into the event. So you log in, you go to the session, and then your name is going to show up. And then you can actually go in as an attendee, click on their name, and either have a public or private conversation with that individual. So again, it's not the same, but it is as best we could. So it's all the best we could do, excuse me.
Yep.
And so you just go ahead and have that conversation, and if you want to be able to connect, you can make all of those connections with additional email or phone numbers and things like that. The nice thing is that you can also start conversations and ask questions of the subject matter experts during the panel. Yeah. So that conversation is going back and forth, and then you'll have myself in the background, and we'll be working to engage those individuals and saying, we'll do some polling. You'll see some questions about what do you think about the industry, this, so that as simultaneously as that actual panel is occurring, there will be polling questions that people will answer to kind of give the direct feedback of what the industry is thinking in the audience that would be. And then the other part about it is that the audience can also ask questions directly and have those questions answered by the individuals themselves.
I would imagine that in person people are really reluctant to raise their hand and sometimes ask questions at a panel. I would probably imagine that you're going to get more people to ask questions, type them in because they're behind the security of their computer a little bit.
Sure.
So it might actually drive additional engagement from the people that want to participate, I would imagine. So I think that sounds really interesting.
To your point that you bring up, we've actually, with the other events that we did, WCX, the Digital Summit we did there, and a couple others in aerospace, we've actually found that engagement, we do preceded questions, and then in a face-to-face event, it's kind of getting people to pull that person out. But
right.
To your point, behind that screen, they're much more comfortable. I think engineers have a tendency to be more introverted,
Sure.
just by their very nature. Otherwise, they'd be salespeople, right? So again, it pulls them out of and saying, okay, I can ask that question. And then that dialogue is, and I think the millennial and the next generation, whatever after the millennial is, that you can have that dialogue because people are used to this, right? And the nice thing about the platform is you can use it in a smart device or on a laptop.
Absolutely. So Mark, is there anything else you want to tell the people at home or anything new about the Digital Colloquium you want to let the people watching this know?
Sure. I think it's really important that the industry understand that we're trying to engage more of the students into the Brake Colloquium. One of the things that we've heard from our audience is that an event over in Europe has a great opportunity to engage the students because the OEM and the tier supplier community are more integrated with the universities on the brake development. Here in the U.S., that's less so. We have maybe one or two universities really kind of having the primary focus in the development around brakes. And so we developed a student program this year. The intent is to, on a face-to-face, is to bring them all together, get some kind of lunch and learn with the OEM suppliers and developers of the brake technology, and unfortunately we can't do that. The other part that we were planning on was a poster competition. So we've been able to pivot that to a virtual activity. So we are actually going to have them present live to judges, and then they will have some critique on that and a rubrics requirement that they have to meet to do the presentation. And then there will be a monetary amount. We're going to kind of keep that, what that monetary amount is, quiet. But we certainly have the opportunity to still do that. Virtual is allowed for that presentation and for the judging through a Zoom platform. So we're actually going to take that opportunity.
I got to ask, just out of curiosity, what's this poster? The presentation, like what's his details around that? I mean, not to get super detailed about it, but I'm curious now.
It's a legitimate thing. The poster competitions, they've been going on forever. Rather than just your standard presentation with a PowerPoint slide, what it is it's a 32 by 40 poster, and it's basically a thesis in visual. So rather than a 12-page thesis, the idea is to explain in a visual pictogram with some images and some writing what it is that you're working on. So it's an opportunity to kind of sell. It's an elevator speech, kind of, would be a little better way of saying it. It's an elevator about an idea that a student is working on, and then from there, we'll do some judging on that and see how it goes.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I had no idea what that was, so I appreciate you answering that for me.
No, it's not a very common thing, specifically in the brake industry or colloquiums and things like that. We're trying to, but we do find it's an easier way to engage students so that they don't have to do a full presentation. But little elevator speeches seem to be the right amount of time for students.
So let's transition back real quick to the Digital Colloquium. Before we kind of close off here in the conversation, is there anything else you want to share about the Digital Colloquium itself?
Appreciate you asking. No, honestly, we'd like to make sure that people understood that we know the economics of the situation with COVID right now in the automotive industry, and being respectful of that the Digital Summit will be free for people. So they'll be able to attend the 6 live panel discussions and also get access to the 50+ presentations. And if they financially, if they're able, we do have for $149, we have all of the papers that will be bundled together that they can purchase. So For $149, you can get a full-on Brake Colloquium as you normally would, except for it's at the comfort of your home.
Yeah. So let me ask a follow-up question to that, because you raised an interesting point about how you're bundling the papers together for $149. Traditionally, at least from my experience, going to the Colloquium, right now everybody could go because there's travel involved and everything like that, and there's some costs associated with it. Do you think that this format, given what's going on, is going to drive more attendance and more awareness to SAE and the Brake Colloquium specifically and the panel discussions, or what do you think the outcome will be from something like this?
We absolutely believe that it should drive more attendance. One of the things that we did specifically in our committee meetings is looking at the timing of it. So we now start at 7 a.m. And that idea is that if you look at the time zone difference between that and Asia and India and Europe, that was going to allow for more people to have access to start out. We're sorry for our West Coast friends that that's a little early for them, but we are pre-recording, or actually we'll have recorded the panels as well. But the intent is really, to your point, is to be able to bring more people in by moving it earlier, and the fact that it's virtual will eliminate a lot of that economics and travel budget restrictions.
Follow-up question to that.
Sure.
Putting you on the spot a little bit, is there any, in the future moving forward, let's say COVID, we get through this, and next year there's a drive to go back to the traditional format. Is there any thought around maybe a hybrid approach to what you're doing now based on maybe the success or failure of what's going on, if you do have greater attendance or adoption?
You must be talking to my director, because the whole point of what we're doing for next year is...
I have not, by the way.
The whole intent is really, honestly, to look at hybrid for our events in the future. And to your point is that we will absolutely have face-to-face and live versions. Now we will look at the idea of doing some webcast on specific panel discussions so that individuals who can't travel but still want to be entertained and educated on the information will absolutely be able to do so. So the idea is we don't see the idea of virtual content going away. We actually just see it as an enhancement to the face-to-face activity. We're going to do some pre-event stuff. We'll do some on-site virtual activities. So absolutely, the future is really, provided it's an opportunity, right? Everything that's a blessing is a curse.
Sure.
And as horrible as this has been, it has certainly provided us the opportunity to look at ways to engage people that maybe wouldn't normally be able to go because of economics.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I appreciate you answering the question, because I know we didn't talk about that
beforehand.
But
our pleasure.
No, I appreciate that. I'm excited. I like to see the creativity around it. I'm interested to see the results. Even though I'm not formally in the automotive industry myself, I'll be trying to get in and chime in and check this out. And I just appreciate the time right now to sit down and talk about this with us.
Well, I appreciate you coming in here, and speaking of time, I would be remiss if I didn't do a quick shout out to all of the organizers and the panelists and the committee members. That it takes hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of hours to put together a colloquium. Most people don't realize the amount of volunteer work that goes into developing an event like this. So we really want to appreciate and send a note of thanks to all of those folks. This is year 38 for the Brake Colloquium, and I can honestly tell you there are probably not that many events that have not stopped for 38 straight years.
Right.
And we miss San Antonio. I'm not going to argue that would have been a great place to be face-to-face. The Riverwalk is beautiful, but we look forward to engaging everyone virtually, and we look forward to hearing what people have to say about the product.
And just before, so for the audience watching this, where can they go to register, sign up? Where should I send them?
It's www.sae.org, and then you just go right to events and look up the Brake Colloquium right online, and they can click and register right through the website. Excellent.
So head over to sae.org. Mark, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Stay safe out there.
Virtual bump.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.